So we all talk about having high expectations for our students, right? But what does that actually look like in a classroom that's buzzing with a million things at once? In this explainer, we're going to skip past the buzzwords and get right into the how, the actual concrete strategies that can turn that idea of high expectations into real student success. Let me ask you something, a question to just kind of mull over. Are all your students really getting the same chance to succeed? I mean, of course, we all want to say yes, but the truth is sometimes our own unconscious patterns can get in the way, and a little gap can form between what we intend to do and what our students actually experience. And look, this isn't just a hunch. Research has been showing this for decades. Teachers almost always, without even realizing it, can end up treating students they have lower expectations for just a little bit differently. They get called on less, or they're rushed when they try to answer, or maybe we just jump in and give them the answer to help them when they start to struggle. These tiny little moments, they add up, and they can really reinforce the student's own belief that they just aren't capable. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that we have to flip the script. The goal isn't just about making things harder. It's about creating a classroom where every single student feels seen, feels valued, and feels safe enough to take a risk. That's where we, as teachers, become this incredibly powerful force for change. Okay, so first things first, we've got to just acknowledge this hidden gap. And listen, this isn't about blame, not at all. It's just about awareness. Simply understanding that these unconscious biases exist is the absolute first step toward consciously closing that gap for good. All right, so how do we actually start to close that gap? Well, the first big tool in our toolkit is all about the art of the question, because the way we ask questions can either shut a student down, or it can be the very thing that invites them into some really deep thinking. Instead of just, firing off random questions and hoping for the best, a really powerful strategy is to use what's called a questioning sequence. Think of it like building a staircase for their thinking. It's a structured path that takes every student step by step from what is it all the way up to what if and why does it matter. And this is where it gets really practical. You can see how it's broken down into these 4 phases. You start with the basics, right? Just detail questions to get everyone on the same page, activating what they already know. Then you move them up to category, where they start sorting and connecting ideas. From there, you push them to elaborate, to make a claim or a prediction. And then, the top of the staircase, you ask them for evidence. This is just a brilliant way to build in that rigor for every single learner in your room. Okay, this next one, it might be the simplest, most powerful strategy of them all. It costs absolutely nothing. It takes zero prep time. It's called wait time. After you ask a good question, you just wait. That little bit of silence gives students a chance to actually process and come up with a real thought, not just a panicked, knee-jerk answer. I get it. That silence can feel like an eternity, right? It can get awkward. But here's the thing. You don't have to just stand there frozen. Use that time. Silently count in your head, scan the room, make some eye contact, maybe even move to a different part of the room. Your own comfort with that pause gives your students the permission they need to actually think. Okay, so you're asking better questions and you're giving them time to think. Awesome. But what about the quiet kids? How do you make sure you're not just hearing from the same 3 students over and over again? Well, that brings us to our next set of tools, managing the whole classroom conversation. One of the absolute best ways to boost participation is to just lower the stakes. Group response strategies get every single student talking and thinking, but in a much more comfortable, less on-the-spot kind of way. And you've got so many options here. You can use something super simple like near partners for a quick turn and talk, or you could try more involved structures like a jigsaw, where students become little experts on a topic and then teach their peers. These things build not just knowledge, but community too. Group work is fantastic, for sure, but we still need to make sure every single student is accountable for their own learning and that we get a chance to hear from every voice. And that's where individual response strategies are key. You know the classic popsicle sticks? There's a reason they've stuck around. They're an amazing tool for equity because they take your own unconscious bias right out of the equation. Or you could try something like response chaining, where one student answers and the next has to add on to what they said. It really keeps everyone on their toes. Now, we can have all the best questioning strategies in the world, but if our students are afraid to be wrong, none of it matters. And this brings us to what is maybe the most important piece of this whole puzzle, creating a culture of trust. And that all comes down to how we react. And check this out, because it puts it so clearly. Every single time a student speaks up,
we're at a fork in the road. We can unintentionally shut them down, maybe by ignoring their answer or showing frustration. Or we can build them up, just by making eye contact, thanking them for the effort, and making sure the classroom is a place where respect is non-negotiable. That choice right there defines your classroom culture.
Let's just zoom in for a second on this idea of encouragement, especially when a student gets an answer wrong. Because that moment, an incorrect answer, that is not a failure. That is a golden opportunity. And how we respond in that moment means everything. And this is just fantastic because it gives you the actual words, the phrases you can take and use tomorrow. Instead of a flat no, imagine saying something like, "You're on the right track with this part." Or, my personal favorite, if I had asked a different question, your answer would be absolutely perfect. It validates their thinking while gently steering them in the right direction. It's a total game changer.
So when you step back and look at all of this, you realize something really important. Communicating high expectations isn't some big, dramatic speech you give once a year. It's about the 1,000 tiny, intentional moves we make every single day. It's the extra second of wait time, the random name you call, the encouraging phrase you offer. These are the small keys that unlock a huge world of potential inside every one of our students.
And that really brings us to the end. But the real work, it starts now. So I want you to think about your classroom, about your students. What is one small change, just one strategy from everything we've talked about, that you can try tomorrow to help that one reluctant learner feel truly seen and truly valued?